Hey, good morning everyone, Sam here from Lake Pro Tackle. Guys, this video is gonna be a really important one. This is gonna be my top 5 baits for the month of March. Now I know around the country, every state, every region can be a little bit different, but these are gonna be my 5 top general baits that I like to throw in the month of March. There will be a couple differences in some of the baits that I throw. I'll talk about those. I'll talk about kind of how those fish are moving in the month of March. Of course, I'm here in Texas, so I'm gonna base most of it around the South area, you know, Arkansas, Alabama, New Mexico, around this area, you know, Oklahoma is gonna be involved in there. But the month of March is definitely gonna be a transition time. The weather gets a little funky sometimes. Right now it's 50 degrees here and I'm drinking hot chocolate because it's that cold, and I feel like that's something I need to do today. So this video is gonna be a little longer than some of the other videos, so buckle up, stay tuned, leave a like on the video if you enjoy it, subscribe to the channel, keep up with everything that's going on at Lake Pro Tackle here. All this stuff's gonna be linked below, so if you wanna go get some, head over to lakeprotackle.com. Look around, find some stuff that you might like. We've got weekly sales going on, so check those out. We've got sales up to around 35% a lot of the time, so definitely take advantage of that. And if you are based in Texas, guys, we've got fishing reports, free fishing reports with a lot of information on those. Our lake pros go out on the water, get us fishing reports, and tell you the exact lures that they're catching fish on, as well as some of their secret patterns. So we appreciate each and every one of you, and we want to just say thank you. So guys, this video, again, we're going to be going over my top 5 baits of March. We're going to go ahead and talk about kind of what March is all about. March is going to be a big transition time for the fish. A lot of the times those fish are going to be moving around, looking for bait, feeding up, and getting ready for the spawn. Now, spawn can happen as soon as February in a lot of places, especially Florida. You know, fish generally will spawn end of January in Florida, and you know, in the south here in Texas, Oklahoma, this region of the country, a lot of these fish are gonna be really getting on their beds near the middle to end of March. So when those water temps really hit that 55-degree mark, moving back up, those fish are gonna be moving around main lake points, secondary points, and moving up into the 60-degree water in the backs of coves and stuff like that. So that's kind of the progression of the fish. So like I said, they're gonna be moving a lot, and you want to match their movements with a couple baits. So I've got 2 moving baits on here that I really wanna hit home on, and the first one is gonna be something like this. This right here is the Strike King Hybrid Hunter Junior. So the reason I went with the junior size as opposed to the regular size is that it is a lot smaller. It's a smaller profile than the original Hybrid Hunter. And the reason I really like this bait here is it has a very unique action on it. It has a curved lip. It's very similar to a square bill lip, but it's got a little extra 90-degree curve on it, which gives it a very unique action. This bait here looks almost exactly like a shad in terms of the profile. It's a lot longer and a lot taller than something like a traditional square bill, which I was thinking about putting the square bill on this list, but I thought, hey, we're gonna go with something different. A lot of people aren't throwing these, so you definitely wanna check this one out here. This color is just called Oyster. You know, Oyster is one of my favorite colors that Strike King has. And just overall, you know, I love throwing the Oyster square bill, as well as some other baits in that color. But this one here, the Hybrid Hunter, like I said, it's got a very unique action to it. It's almost like a chatterbait-esque action. The bait, when it swims through the water, that curved lip helps it stay very vertical in the water. You know, square bills typically will angle down like this and have a real aggressive action going straight into the bottom. This one here will sit very horizontally and move through the water. So it's got a great searching action. It wiggles side to side, very shad-like. So in that smaller profile too, will get you a ton more bites. So I will start with this in the earlier pre-spawn months when those fish are still around the main lake to secondary points. Once they really get into tighter areas like the backs of pockets and stuff, I'll bring out the full-size Hybrid Hunter. But for early March, I will definitely pick up this junior Hybrid Hunter over most of the other crankbaits in my arsenal. Gotta take a little hot chocolate break there. So, you know, like I said, again, the fish are moving. The shad is generally gonna be bigger size right now, but those fish that are opportunistic, looking to feed, they won't hesitate to eat a small bait fish profile like this. And that leads me into the second bait that I have chosen, and that is gonna be the Z-Man ChatterBait Mini Max. And the reason I went with the Mini Max, again, is gonna be number one, that profile is very, very important to get those fish to trigger on it. Now, you can go the opposite end of the spectrum and you can go very, very big to something like the big blade and you will get bit. Don't get me wrong. You can throw a jackhammer and get bit. You can throw a thunder cricket, a slobber knocker. These are all gonna get bit as well. The reason I go with the Mini Max is the same principle as the Junior Hybrid Hunter. It is a smaller profile. It has a smaller blade on it, and it's gonna put off a little less vibration than a typical bladed jig. So if you're fishing somewhere like Sam Rayburn that gets hit a lot, or something like Lake Fork if you're in Texas, maybe Guntersville if you're in Alabama, and you know, you've got a bunch of different lakes across the country that will get hit more than others and have a lot more fishing pressure, having something different than other people does not hurt at all. And a lot of the times it helps get you more bites and catch more of those fish. So that's the reason I went with the Mini Max Junior. This is just in Pearl Ghost color here. We've got a couple different colors as well. We've got the Fire Craw one, we've got black and blue, green pumpkin, spot remover. So go check them all out. My favorite size in this is gonna be the 1/2 ounce. Even though it has that smaller blade on it, I wanna keep that chatterbait lower in the water column, very suspended around 5 foot off the bottom. I'm typically gonna fish the chatterbait here on either 12 to 15 pound line. And yes, that is a little bit light. However, I wanna make sure this bait gets as much action from the smaller blade as possible. So this one here is gonna be my number 2. I'm gonna pair it up with something like a 4-inch Kitech Easy Shiner, possibly a 3.3-inch Fat Swing Impact, as well as some other smaller profile swim baits. This one right here is gonna be my number 2. We're gonna go ahead and hop into some other baits that you can pitch around, flip around, cover water more effectively, and that's gonna be this one right here. This is a topwater frog. This is the Spro Frog. It's the popper style, and this is the 1/2 ounce green tree color. So the reason I don't have a shad colored frog this time of the year is because the shad just aren't quite up on the bank. And we're still gonna be talking about the early March to mid-March time. Shad spawn will come a little later on when that water temp gets around the 65 mark, and that's when I'm gonna bring out a shad colored frog. However, right now, trees are starting to bloom, frogs are coming out, turtles are coming out. You know, life is just abundant in most places. You go start moving to the backs of pockets and stuff, if that water temp reaches that 57 to 58 mark, a frog can be very deadly. So I'm generalizing if you're in the area, North Texas area, or if you're around the country that has a very similar weather pattern to Texas, a frog in the latter half of March is gonna be a very, very good bait. And I know right now, especially on Lake Fork, there are some fish that are already in the very, very backs of the coast because it just warms up a lot faster over on those East Texas lakes. So a frog is gonna be very key for me in the month of March. And the reason I went with the popping frog is that I can really slow down and fish a certain area a lot slower. I can pop this frog and it can sit still. I can pop it and it's gonna sit still. And I can really just keep it there, and that pop has enough action on it, it has enough sound, enough commotion on the water to where if those fish are a little farther away or moving around, they can sense it and they can key in on it. So that's the reason I went with the popper frog as opposed to something like a gliding frog or a traditional frog that you walk the dog with. So this one here, the poppin' frog, I really love it around timber as well as submerged brush. So that's kind of where I'll be fishing it. Again, I'm gonna have probably around 40 to 50 pound braid on this one here. The Spro hooks are really great hooks. They're nice, and I'm not gonna say thin, but they're a little thinner than some of the other hooks on the market. So I don't need a super, super heavy braid to rip them out of super dense cover. I don't need 60 pound braid because we're not fishing a lot of vegetation where I'm at. But if you are fishing a lot of vegetation, milfoil, very dense hardwood cover, you might want to move up to 60. So Spro Frog is gonna be number 3 on my list. We're gonna move to just a staple that you should have on the boat almost any time in the spawn months, and that is gonna be a craw style bait in the color white, or just some crazy color that you can see in the water. Now, a lot of the time, especially in the last half of the month of March, when those fish really get on beds and start locking on to certain areas, the fish don't really care what the color of the bait is. And this is actually something that a lot of people don't know about the bass. You know, you can catch bass on a white craw like this. This is the Berkley Shape 108. Super cool bait. This is in the 4-inch size. And you can catch fish on a white plastic almost any time of the year. The reason why anglers start to go with the white is for bed fishing. It's easier to see in murky water. Even if it's clear water, you can still use white. The fish are still going to eat it. It's really more about ticking that fish off with your bait when you're bed fishing. You know, the white color just makes it easier to see in the water. So that's the reason I kind of just chose this one to go along with the flow, guys. You know, this is going to be one of the times that I will agree with most people on the internet and you know, that are saying you need a white bait. So this one here is one of my favorites. It's going to be the Shape 108 again. It's got a great kicking action. It's very similar in shape to something like a Rage Menace. However, it's got a much bigger claw action on it. So it's like a Rage claw on like a Menace body. So the body on it is not terribly big. It's a pretty good cross-sized bait. Again, 4 inches, 10 centimeters, and Berkley recommends using an EWG. I would agree with that. I'm gonna have probably around a 1/2 ounce weight, maybe a 3/8 ounce weight when I flip this around. I can also work this bait very similar like a swim jig, just kind of twitching it using my rod to make that bait glide across the water. So this one here is a very versatile bait. I'll flip this into buckbrush, I'll flip this into trees, I'll flip this into grass, drag it along the bank, do a lot of things. You can do a lot of different techniques with this bait here, so don't be scared to try something new. Swim it across certain areas, drag it, flip it, do a lot of things with it, and that is gonna be number 4 for the month of March. Gotta have some more hot chocolate here. Good hot chocolate. I mixed a little coffee in it, get some caffeine in me so I can do this video. But we're gonna go ahead and hop into the last bait, guys. Okay, so last bait that I'm going to be using for the month of March is gonna be a Neko rig, or Neko rig, however you wanna say it. One of the most important things with my Neko rig, I'm gonna say Neko, so don't get mad at me. Comment down below which one you prefer to say, which one's the right one. Go debate that in the comments with some other people. But the Neko rig for me is a very versatile bait. I can fish it many, many different ways, depending on how I rig this bait, depending on the time of the year. I can throw different plastics on it. But right now, I'm gonna have a trick worm just like this one here. I absolutely love the trick worm for early springtime as well as late summertime. So early springtime, the smaller profile bait, again, I'm going with that smaller profile just because I feel like it just draws in more bites. It's a lot better profile for me to fish. So this one here, this trick worm, I'm gonna be using it with the crossover pliers, and I will generally do the 5mm crossover rings as well as the 4mm crossover rings. So go check these out. This is a very handy tool, especially when you're Neko rigging just about any soft plastic. You just wanna make sure that your ring size matches the size of your bait. So once I put the crossover ring on this bait, you're simply gonna stick your favorite drop shot style hook or wacky hook on this bait, and I will be matching that up with a tungsten Neko rig weight. These here are the tungsten Strike King ones, and I'm gonna be using a 1/16 ounce. So the 1/16 ounce is not the lightest they go. It's obviously not the heaviest they go. The 1/16 ounce to me is very easy to skip under certain cover, flip around. I can still drag it on the bottom because that tungsten is very dense. It keeps that bait down on the bottom. And I will typically just dance that across where I need to go. If I'm fishing a dock, I'm gonna send it to the farthest darkest place under that dock, and I'm just gonna twitch it out. And the great thing about the Neko rig is it can be very weedless. You can tuck your hook point very deep into the plastic, have enough hook strength, and that hook is gonna go through the plastic and hook that fish. So the Neko rig for me is a great profile, especially if you're in bed fishing and you haven't tried a Neko rig on a bed. it can be extremely, extremely deadly. The hookup ratio, especially with a small worm like this, the hookup ratio is insane. You can get some amazing hookups throwing this smaller profile worm, especially on beds. They're gonna completely engulf this worm into their mouth, and they're not letting go of it because it's just such a small profile. They can hold on to it, and since it's in their bed, they don't have to chase it off. But that right there is gonna be my number 5, and that concludes the list of my top baits for February. If you have any questions, guys, definitely comment them down below. I know the Neko rig, I'm gonna do another video here shortly explaining the exact process that I like to use when rigging the Neko rig, and we're gonna kind of hop into some of my secret, very, very secret rigging techniques on that bait as well. So again, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you're interested in any of the products that we showed here today, get free shipping for your orders over $50 at lakeprotackle.com. That includes rods, reels, and tackle. We've got some great deals going on, so check in weekly as well as follow our social media accounts. But again, thank you for watching. I'm gonna finish this hot chocolate, and we'll see you next time, guys.